Well, hey everybody, I don't normally do this. I kind of felt compelled to do so. I pulled over to the side of the road here so we can have this conversation, but I just got done with a meeting that was a pretty powerful meeting, one in which we talked about our respective faith journeys, our belief in God, and I think you've had a good meeting when you're able to talk about that kind of a deep level, especially with somebody that you maybe don't have a super good relationship with. And it just made me, I told this story in the meeting and I figured I'd share it with everybody else because the gentleman in the meeting was moved, and I think this could help other people out there, especially individuals that are going through stuff, that are going through a tough time. Maybe life isn't making a lot of sense right now. But as many of you know, we have 3 children, ages 5, 3 years, and then 9 months. And I remember my wife telling me that we were going to be parents for the first time. She's super creative, and she wrote a poem to God thanking him for the blessing of pregnancy, and she read it to me, and we were very, very excited. And the pregnancy was going along very, very well until approximately 6 weeks or so prior to my wife's due date. Her water broke, and that was a very trying time for us. Wait a minute, well, why is this happening so quickly? This is not supposed to work like this. So we rush her to the hospital. Sure enough, baby's coming, only the baby wasn't coming. So my wife was in the hospital for a couple of weeks waiting for the baby to come. It was weird. Her water had broken, but birth wasn't imminent. So a couple weeks of her being in the hospital, that was stressful. Baby is born several weeks premature, Kennedy, our son. So the first couple weeks of his life were confined to the NICU. I don't know how many of you have ever experienced this, but the NICU is the world's worst place. I mean, it was the best place for our son to be, don't get me wrong. But boy, the feeling I got every time I walked in there to see babies hooked up with tubes, the parents that come in to see their kids are all stressed out. I'm stressed out. And plus, I'm a doer. I don't know if it's because I'm a guy or what, but I'm supposed to solve everybody's problems. I can't hold my son. I can't touch my son. I can't friggin' cure my son of what's going on right now. I'm helpless and defenseless, and I don't do helpless. I don't do defenseless. And I remember from time to time, my wife and I we're spiritual people, but man, we asked why on a couple of occasions. Why is this happening to us? Why is God allowing this to happen? And we didn't have a good answer. But I'll tell you, one of the blessings that came from this was that Kennedy, our oldest, was the first grandbaby for both sets of our parents, for my side, for Tanya's side. And what I loved is Tanya's father is a wonderful human being. Not as an emotional of a guy as I am. And I loved seeing that emotional side of him when it would appear from time to time. And I just remember how happy he was to hold his first grandchild, how excited he got to be in the presence of his first grandchild, the tears in his eyes that I had never seen before of pure joy when he saw Kennedy for the first time. And that continued for the couple of weeks after, we brought Kennedy home. I just had never seen this side of my wife's dad before, and it just did me so good to see that. Well, a couple of weeks after Kennedy was born, sadly, my father-in-law suffered a heart attack and then passed away shortly thereafter. And obviously, when you lose anybody that you love that unexpectedly, it can be very traumatic. It can be very difficult. But what was amazing about this whole scenario is that the day my father-in-law passed away was November 2nd, 2012. Kennedy, my oldest, his due date was November 2nd, 2012. We serve a God that loves us this much that he allowed us to go through the pain, the trauma, the uncertainty, the anxiety, the fear, and the worry of all the stuff that happened, from my wife being in the hospital to us being in the NICU. He allowed all that to happen because he wanted my father-in-law to have several weeks of insane happiness, several weeks of time with his only grandbaby, several weeks that he could experience this unbridled joy because he was about to be called home. Don't ever tell me that anything in life is coincidence. Don't ever tell me that anything in life is chance and random occurrence. Everything in life happens for a reason. Whether you're going through a good time or a bad time right now, it's happening for a reason. You may not know it right now, but it'll show itself at some point. So for us, Kennedy is like the God baby of the family. He is a sign of enduring love that God is always looking out for us. God is always supporting us. And even when it doesn't make sense, and even when you're stressed and you're not putting all the pieces together, everything in life is happening for a reason, and God knows exactly why. That's my story. I don't know what's going on your side right now. I don't know what you needed to hear right now. I don't tell a lot of people that story, but just based on the meeting that I had and the reaction that the gentleman had when I shared it with him, I wanted to share it with you. God loves you. Everything is happening for a reason, and even when it makes no sense, it will in the final analysis. Thanks, everybody.